Everything you are and nearly everything you do is not up to you. You must live with the conditions you find yourself in. As Voltaire would say, you start with the cards you're dealt. But the longer you live, the more your life is shaped by your choices. You decide what you will eat. This is one of the most common ways small children begin to assert their independence. You decide what toys to play with. You decide whether you will do your homework or watch TV. You choose which friends to spend time with. You choose whether to finish high school, whether you will go to college, who you will marry, what you will do for a living. The longer you live, the more choices you make, and the more responsible you are for how your life is turning out. Obviously, this does not accurately represent every person's life, but in general, the longer we live, the less conditions dictate how we think and act, and the more our choices determine how we live. And one of those choices is our attitude. I don't know what kind of circumstances you've had to face in your life. You may have had a really tough time. You may have faced extreme hardships or suffered terrible tragedies. However, your attitude is still your choice. Perhaps the most remarkable story I've read in the face of horrible circumstances and personal tragedy is that of Viktor Frankl. Born in 1905, Frankl grew up in Vienna and showed an early interest in psychiatry. As a teenager, he corresponded with Sigmund Freud, and one paper he sent Freud so impressed him that the older man sent it to a professional journal where it was later published. Frankl became a successful medical doctor in Vienna at age 25, but in 1942, 4 years after the Nazi invasion of Austria, he was rounded up along with other Austrian Jews and put in a concentration camp. While there, he experienced unspeakable horrors, and he lost his entire family, his pregnant wife, his parents, and his brother. During the rest of World War II, Frankl was trapped in concentration camps, including the notoriously brutal Auschwitz. Most of his fellow prisoners either were killed or gave up. Not Frankl. He not only maintained hope, but he helped others to find it. The key, he believed, was to find and hold on to meaning. Years later, Frankl told Holcomb B. Noble in the New York Times that the last of the human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Miraculously, Frankl survived his time in the concentration camps, and after the war, he was determined to use his experience to help others. He returned to school and earned his Ph.D. He developed logotherapy, often called the Third Viennese School of Psychotherapy. It is based on a person's will to find meaning, and it is expressed, in part, by the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. Until he was 85 years old, Frankl taught in Vienna as a professor of neurology and psychiatry. He lectured at 209 universities on 5 continents. He received 29 honorary doctorates and had more than 150 books published about him and his work in 15 different languages. During the good years and the bad, his attitude was positive. Each man is questioned by life, Frankl once said, and he can only answer to life by answering for his own life. To life, he can only respond by being responsible. To change your life, you must make a choice, to take responsibility for your attitude, and to do everything you can to make it work for you. Your attitude truly can become a difference maker. It's up to you. Chapter 2. What your attitude cannot do for you. I read an article in USA Today that pointed out issues that university professors and employers are having to address with many young men and women who are now entering adult life. These individuals were products of the self-esteem movement of the 1980s. Many have great attitudes about themselves. However, their high opinions of themselves and their abilities are often disconnected from reality. Deborah Stipek, Dean of Education at Stanford University, says, I often get students in graduate school doing doctorates who made straight A's all their lives, and the first time they get tough feedback, The kind you need to develop skills, they react badly. I have a box of Kleenex in my office because they haven't dealt with it before. Roy Baumeister, a psychology professor at Florida State University, has been studying self-esteem for more than 30 years. He thought it was going to be a key to helping people become successful, but it hasn't. There is not nearly as much benefit as we hoped, he says. It's been one of the biggest disappointments of my career. You cannot disconnect attitude from reality and expect success. I have to admit, I haven't always embraced this view. A certain sign that we have grown intellectually is that over time our thoughts change. If you had asked me about the importance of attitude 20 years ago, I'd have said, your attitude is the only difference between success and failure. You're only a dream away from success. Back then, I thought that if you can believe it, you can achieve it, and all that you had to do was make it happen. Today, I recognize that while those kinds of statements can motivate you, if you believe that a dream alone can bring success, you will be disappointed. Those statements simply aren't true. I know many people who have a great attitude yet aren't successful. Don't you? When all other things are equal, attitude can be the difference maker, but it alone does not make the difference. For example, let's say two people apply for the same job. One has great skills and natural talent, 10 years of experience, and an okay attitude. The other has a great attitude and no experience whatsoever. Who gets the job? Probably the one with the greater skills and experience. Why? Because a great attitude will not make up the gap. However, what if the two candidates are roughly equal in skill and experience? In that case, the one with the better attitude wins, hands down. Where attitude cannot make the difference. Attitude is the difference maker. It is a plus. It gives an edge. It is an additive, but it is not a substitute. Here are some things that your attitude cannot make up for. 1. Your attitude cannot substitute for competence. Some people seem to confuse confidence, which is a function of attitude, with competence, which is a function of ability. Or they believe that one can be substituted for the other. But the two are distinctly different. If you think you can do something, that's confidence. If you can do it, that's competence. Both are needed for success. A great attitude can help you personally. It can make you more content, more pleasant to be around, more likely to tackle difficult problems. But it cannot help you positionally. If you don't have competence in your favor, then you're going to be in trouble. To see the importance of competence, think about how much we desire it in others. When we hire employees, we certainly desire high competence. We want to find the best people we can. Management expert Peter Drucker once told a friend of mine that the team members he wanted to hire were probably neither unhappy nor unemployed. If you find someone whose qualifications look good, but he or she is unhappy or unemployed, be very cautious, Drucker said. The kind of people you're looking for are probably making huge contributions and setting records somewhere. They're probably happy and much loved by the people they work with. Go after that type. Go after proven competence. In leading and developing people for over 35 years, I have discovered that incompetence is a great distraction to people in an organization. When someone on the team is incapable of performing at the appropriate level, even someone with a great attitude, then the leader and the other team members become distracted from their main purpose. They end up spending a lot of time trying to get the incompetent person on track. In my book, The 17 Indisputable Laws of Teamwork, the law of the chain says, the strength of the team is impacted by the weakest link. That is always true for any team. That problem often cannot be solved merely by adopting a positive attitude. However, it can change if the weak person gets on the ball quickly and develops competence. 2. Your attitude cannot substitute for experience. A fox, a wolf, and a bear went hunting, and each got a deer. A discussion followed about how they should divide the spoils. The bear asked the wolf how he thought it should be done. The wolf answered, "That's simple. Each of us should get one deer. As soon as the wolf was done speaking, the bear ate him. Then the bear asked how the fox proposed to divvy up the spoils. The fox offered his deer to the bear and suggested that the bear take the wolf's as well. "Where did you get such wisdom?" asked the bear. "From the wolf," replied the fox. There are times when there is no adequate substitute for experience. The problem with experience, however, is that you rarely have it until after you need it. Experience is often a hard teacher because the test is given first and the lessons come afterward. That's probably why the old quote says, "When a person with experience meets a person with money, the person with experience will get the money, and the person with the money will get the experience." Back when I thought that attitude was everything, I tried to hire people with the best attitudes and figured I could get them up to speed in their skills. Now that I am older and more experienced, I realize that I had things backward. Now I hire primarily for skill and experience. Here's why. When it comes to talent and skill, a person can grow only a limited amount. On a scale from 1 to 10, most people can improve in a skill area only about 2 points. So, for example, if you are naturally a 6 as a leader, you may be able to grow to an 8 if you work at it. However, if you are a 2, you can work as hard as you want and you will never reach even average. The old saying of coaches is true. You can't get out what God didn't put in. Attitude, however, is a different matter. There is no growth ceiling. Even a person with a 2 attitude can grow to become a 10. So, even someone whose attitude isn't the best can turn that around. On the day that I decided as a leader to hire only people with successful track records to key positions in my organization, my professional life changed. The entire team became more productive, and my organization began going to another level. That's not to say that I began hiring people with bad attitudes. I didn't. It wasn't an either-or decision. It was a both-and decision. Competence, experience, and positive attitude are a winning combination. 3. Your attitude cannot change the facts. One of the interesting discoveries researchers have made about attitude is that it has an impact on people's health. A study performed by the University of Texas found that elderly people who had a positive attitude remained more physically hardy than those who were pessimistic. That's really good news. But here's the bad news. No matter how good your attitude, it will not stop you from aging. That is just the way it is. There are certain things in life that are simply facts, and your attitude will not change them. If you're an adult, your height is whatever it is. If you want to play center in the NBA and you're only 5 feet 4 inches tall, forget about it. The most positive attitude in the world isn't going to change that. Problems can be addressed and solved. Facts you just learn to live with. I love what poet Maya Angelou says about this. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Don't complain. 4. Your attitude cannot substitute for personal growth. Ernest Campbell, a former faculty member of the Union Theological Seminary in New York, told the story of a woman who bought a parrot at a local pet store because she was lonely. She took the bird home, but after a couple of days, she returned to the store to complain. That parrot hasn't said a word yet. Does it have a mirror? The pet store owner asked. Parrots like to be able to look at themselves in the mirror. So the lady bought a mirror and returned home. The next day she was back at the store because the bird still hadn't made a peep. What about a ladder? The store owner asked. Parrots enjoy walking up and down a ladder. So she bought a ladder and returned home. She was back at the store the next day. Still the parrot hadn't said a thing. Does the parrot have a swing? The owner asked. Birds enjoy relaxing on a swing. She bought a swing and went home again. The next day she returned to the store to tell the pet owner that the bird had died. I'm terribly sorry to hear that, said the store owner. Did the bird ever say anything before it died? Yes, answered the lady. It said, don't they sell any food down there? The lesson of the story, Campbell said, was that we buy mirrors by which to primp ladders